Do you have an all-star HR team? You may feel your team is already performing at a high level, but let's take a closer look. Would your company's top leaders and employees agree that your HR team are operating at a high level? Are team members able to influence top executives on difficult topics? Are team members business and strategy focused on the challenges the organization is facing? Does the executive team trust your direct reports as advisors on human capital issues? If you can answer yes to these questions, you have built an outstanding team. If you feel there is room for improvement, Strategy Focused Group can create a custom development program to elevate the quality of your HR team. Please email us at info@strategyfocusedgroup.com.
Good morning, good evening, depending upon what part of the world you're in. If it's Friday, it is the CEO series where we explore career journeys, the trajectory, the detours, the right, left turns, and U-turns along the way. And our guest today is Hassan Tirmizi. He's a chartered fellow of CIPD. For people that don't know what CIPD is, I think it's Chartered Institute of Professional Development, aligned with HR, chartered manager fellow with over 20 years experience in the Middle East, Asia, and now Africa. As a global thought leader, he's known for advancing the field of OD, which again is org design, people strategy, and culture transformation. His work and insights bridge strategies, systems, human behavior, helping organizations adapt to disruption, etc. And with that, Hassan, how are you, man?
Hi, Ron. Good evening from Bahrain, and lovely to be here.
Yes, I see your beautiful background there, which I got a little confused because I thought it was in Dubai. But anyway, we're good. Yeah,
Yeah,
only a Middle Eastern person would understand that the different designs of the background. But I want
yeah.
to start with, as we start on every session, is to walk us through your career journey to where you are today, global thought leader in the space and chartered Institute of Professional Development, all of these designations. How did it all start, and how did you end up where you are today?
Okay, so my HR journey didn't start from the office. So it began from a military living room where I learned from the very early time that culture is the way of living. So watching my father uh, leading his men with clarity, purpose, instilled that deep understanding of culture, loyalty, and responsibility. So the foundation shaped the fascination in me around people, systems, and performance. So my HR career didn't start with HR at all. So I've actually studied software engineering, and I began my career life in Ericsson as a technical role. So which is why probably why I fix systems more faster than printers, but that's
Yeah,
another story. So,
yeah.
and even though I've moved from that technical word, it actually shaped the way I understand mm, everything I do now. So it has
Hmm.
taught me about system thinking. It's taught me about structures, about logic, about integration, and it trained my mind to look into how things are connected, how they break, and how they scale. So,
That's
but yeah, so something interesting happened very early in my career. I realized my real passion was not into technology itself, but it was with the people behind. So, with that behavior, with the culture and the way organization and breeds and how it functions, so I went into pursuing my MBA that opened up a whole new, uh, um, you know, globe for me especially.
hmm.
So the real thing actually happened at the point after my MBA where I joined Grant Thornton. So consulting actually pushed me into the room where you build strategies, you're building business models, leadership, organizational dynamics,
Yeah,
which is happening real to time in organization.
yeah. Yeah.
I so I got to see companies from inside out, and
Hmm.
that is when I realized that, which was something very important for me, that I am far less HR operations and I am far more and as an organizational architect. And
Hmm.
I wasn't drawn into processes; I was drawn into systems
Yeah.
of how the flow works, how it connects the people, how it connects the entire system.
Hmm.
So then came my affiliation with an organization called as Army Welfare Trust. So an organization with 42 different businesses and at that time back in 2009 a manpower of 58,000 employees. That was where my foundation laid stone in HR actually started to function, because I was at the group level. So I was moving around industries from engineering to security services to financials to real
Mm.
estate, lands, to manufacturing to cement engineering, cement manufacturing. That actually gave me a diverse experience that shaped the way I diagnosed
Yeah.
organizations. So
Mm.
over time, that curiosity evolved into my identity. So I stopped seeing HR as just a function.
I
I
know.
saw it more as a design discipline. So
Yeah.
a place where structure meets psychology and where culture meets the strategy and where the people meets uh, purpose. Some people plan their career with perfect clarity. Mine is more like a Google map, recalculating after every 5 minutes, but somehow that turned out exactly where I needed to be
Yeah.
or where I am right now.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting how you walk through that because lots of people coming out of college, or coming out of university, whatever level, whether it's undergrad or grad, they're looking and thinking in terms of the ladder.
Yeah.
You're going to one step goes that way, and lots of times disruption is the best thing could have ever happened. And you're moving and you're thinking differently because when you talk through how you move to systems thinking from an engineer, we've had doctors who have pulled out of being a doctor and have moved into consulting. We had one doctor who now pulled out and she's concentrating on wellness. So I think it's important. And what you talked about was how do you make that transition because an engineer has systems thinking. So you were able to come over and you use the word architect, which is what I love. Use the word architect. So you're coming in and you're trying to make sure the systems work as opposed to the old way of looking at HR. Is that kind of it in a nutshell?
Yeah, exactly. That's completely it. So because, uh, I mean, anyone who studies a technical profession, they're just like engineering or doctor or everything. Everything is a system.
Mm-hmm.
Human body, a system. Engineers, the circuits, board, everything. Everything is a system. Software, it's a system. So that is how your brain starts to, uh, align itself in the way you think, in the way you work, in the way you process.
Mm-hmm. Out of that process, what was the career high and what was the career low? And you were able to adjust if you want to share.
Yeah, definitely. So my highest per point professionally was my time with the National Logistic Corporation. So I was with one of the flag carrier logistic company where I was initially engaged in setting up the organizational development department. So this was a rare environment where the scale of challenges matched with my scale of ambition. So I stepped into
Mm-hmm.
an organization which is stepped country-wise, high operational pressure, high complex environment, where you have technical, non-technical, military, civilians, non-military, government organizations. So it was
Wow.
all a clubbed uh, business unit function, and it was all logistics and engineering and border terminal management and tool management, and then we also had a applied technology institute. So I built the OD function from ground up,
Yeah.
introducing and expertise. So enterprise-wide performance management system that work closely with the senior leadership to shape the structures, the role, the decision making and the entire flows that it had in the system.
Yeah.
And I had the opportunity to do all those threads together with the strategic organizational design. So
Mm.
initially, my main project was transformation. So the
Okay.
first task that I was given was transformation, transform into a globally agile organization,
Yeah.
transform into a
Yeah.
multi-class. So we transformed from just a logistic company from a multi-model, and we were just not doing land, we were doing land, air, marine, and freight through rail. So we went into all different directions.
Mm.
So so what made NLC my career high was not just the transformation work. It was a shift in the mindset that happened there. So people
Yeah.
started to see HR role as a support function. So they realized that HR is also an integral part. So whenever a project was commencing, or wherever they thought of you know bidding for a new project, so they started to involve HR into their system of how many people, how many people we need, what structures we need, how the process will flow, how it was all connected. So HR started to become
Yeah.
that
Mm.
more of a strategic
Yeah.
a business partner per se than just a support function.
For all the HR people listening in, that's the future. This is where we should be. I gave a speech the other week, and it was all based on how do you become the business person first and the HR person second, and how do you? And I use the example of M&A. So M&A, company A is my company, is you're buying company B. What is our role in? How do you design? Architecture comes in, all those kinds of things. And this is the new level of thought for
Yeah,
every HR person that's listening today. The old school way of doing it is done for the most part.
yeah, yeah.
It's done.
True,
So
true.
let me ask you this though. So as you were walking through the highs and lows, how did you stay grounded? Because I'm sure some days you would walk in and said, "Oh my goodness, what do I do now? Who do I talk to?" Walk us through that phase of it, because it's not as easy as it sounds. Because I said it's not
Yeah,
a ladder, but you were able
yeah.
to, yeah.
So going through the highs and lows, and looking into uh, how leadership is fabricated and how the leadership fabricates your output as well. So
Mm-hmm.
that experience taught me a lot about capability, channeling the right energy, and then enterprise is what I need to see. So
Mm.
for that, I realized that rather than just jumping into structures, jumping into HR, jumping into everything, the environment must be ready
Yeah.
for it to be embedded into. So the leadership must be aligned, the culture must be welcoming for that transformation to happen, not just resisting it through force and just applying it through it. So ironically, the lowest point strengthened me more than any success ever could have happened. It shaped my emotional intelligence, it shaped clarifying my boundaries, deepening my understanding on cultural readiness, and it made me far from intentional about environments, about how should I choose to shape it. So
Mm.
in many ways, the chapter redefined my identity as an organizational design and development culture transformation thought side, which
Mm.
started to shape my entire journey for me and the
Yeah.
future.
You mentioned something there that I made a note of. The failures or the parts of failures that you have, success, failure. Which one do you learn more from? I think I have an exercise centered around that. Which one do you learn more from, the successes or failures? And I've always said my personal vision is that failures, it's an MBA degree because
Exactly.
if you analyze that and you take a look and you remove yourself from it and look through the failures that you've been exposed to. We're all going to have them, but there's a strong learning point, and don't be afraid because you fail. Is that okay?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely, 100%. Completely
Mm-hmm.
agree.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So as you talk through that, how did you stay grounded as it relates to people? Was there someone in your life, family, mother, father, sister? You talked about your father earlier and the role that he played, and just watching what he was going through. Was that kind of a sounding board that you could pick up the phone and
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
to?
no. My father was has been the most influential figure in my life. Growing up in a military household, shaped
Yeah,
into the discipline and character and responsibility and culture and norms and everything. So his leadership taught me early, how you need to develop your own competence regarding culture, regarding integrity, and regarding the service that actually
mm,
matters. So,
mm,
so that was my earliest day. So, professionally, if I see my journey shaped with the blend of global thinkers, like Dave Walridge. My initial start was in 2007 and 8, in which the business partner model just
yeah,
mushroomed up in the world, and especially in Pakistan.
yeah,
Then as I mentioned, I already I met you way back on some of the events, and Nico, and there've been so many, like Simon, like Peter, like Edgar, or Amy Adamson. Everything you read, everything you go through, and every thought leader that you
yeah,
listen to, if you actually understand of how they relate on the future of work and how the HR system works, that actually connects and influences you on your thoughts on how you do work, how
mm,
you see
yeah,
things, and how you go into that area. But
yeah.
most importantly, the leaders and colleagues and teams I've worked with across Africa, Pakistan, and the GCC, those real world examples have also influenced me in shaping my perspective, sharpening my instincts, and then grounding my journey to a more practical experience.
Mhm. So how do you stay inspired now? Like you've reached these heights and you're doing all the cool things. How do you how do you how do you keep the energy level up in that thought process?
One word: transformation.
Transformation.
When I launched even my own thing, it's called human transformation.
Okay.
That is what Casey. So I've witnessed cultural shifts, leadership growing, leadership bringing organizations down or up, organization elevating themselves into right structure, into clarity, into the environment that they created. So the impact of this work keeps me committed and focused to and inspired.
Mm. So when you talk about these ups and downs and all those kinds of approaches, how has that shaped you as a leader? I'm sure you manage a team or you've managed teams. How do you inspire your team?
Looking into aspiring my team, so you have to keep them uh, aligned and focused, and saying that it's every single thing, every downs, not ups. Ups, everybody's happy.
Yeah,
So when the down comes, it's not the end of the world.
yeah.
So my first question to them is, what have you learned out of it? What is the
Hmm.
lesson? What is it that we are not supposed to do next time? What is it that we need to be careful of next time? So sitting with them, talking to them, working closely with them in their downs. In their ups, everybody is around you, but in their downs, that's the main area where you need to sit with them. Just go out, have dinner, or have lunch, or have some non-professional out of office time
Yeah.
to stay with them.
It's funny you mentioned that because I'm smiling because I thought in New York, whenever I needed to have those discussions, we'd call it "Let's walk around the block," because New York City is a big area, and you just walk around the block. But one of the things I noticed with that walking around the block, you saw so many people having meetings on the street. They'd be standing
Yeah.
around a light pole and just conversation. And I've always found, always felt that that level of interaction outside of an office is a lot more impactful, or sitting on a park bench is a lot more impactful than the structured process. And, you got to go through all this stuff.
The, that is true. The human connection that always has an impact on any individual. So if I'm down, who do I go to? I go to someone like a mentor of mine. His name is Khusro Parvez Malik. He was my beacon of light when I was in my MBA and I was going through that shift of whether should I go for marketing, should I go for HR, should I go for finance, and where should I, align myself. So any high and lows, I know I can call him, I can talk to him. So you have a friend in your life. So I become that friend for the team, not just a boss or a leader. So they know who to turn to.
Yeah. So you got that from here coming down to you, and now you're spreading this across your team and other interactions you have within the organization.
Yeah, so my methodology is to stay grounded. So you have to stay grounded. If you don't stay grounded, you cannot not connect.
Okay.
And
Okay.
unless and until you don't connect, you will not be able to pass on the message, pass on the positive vibe, and people will not you know connect with you.
Mm, mm. So I'm glad to hear that you're giving back, because one of the things, if you reach a certain level, how do you take your learnings and you flip it back to the people that are coming up under you? In other words, you reach a hand and you bring other people along, in doing that. And I'm glad to hear that, because lots of times people get here and they think it's all about them, and they don't realize there were building blocks throughout your career that took you to the heights that you are at this particular time.
Yeah, as you mentioned, giving back has always been a core part of what I do, and it started long before I went global. So when I reached a certain level in my career, and I'm not saying very high, but a certain level, I started to go to my universities, sit with the young students, navigate their career choices, explain to them how the corporate was. So over the years, that passion has grown into a larger commitment. So today I serve as a global mentor for HR and leadership professionals through CIPD, CMI, and I have my own channel called Patakazi platform where we guide people across different countries on career stages. So sometimes I feel like I mentor more people than I have contacts in my phone. So that
I know.
that is a
Yeah.
so and I use my human transformation crew platform as a space to support emerging leaders and practitioners to find their path through AHR. Because whenever I'm doing that mentoring thing, or whenever I see someone, so they say I'm in HR. I said, very well, what do you do in HR?
Yeah.
I mean, HR is not a small thing. Where in HR do you see fit? Is it OD&D? Is it HR audit? Is it HR operations? Is it what's your specialization? What's your go-to thing? I mean, what do you want to be known at? So that
Yeah.
is when their thought process starts to
It,
head back. So for me, giving back is a responsibility that keeps me grounded and connected to the next generation of leaders.
you mentioned something earlier that I thought about, and this is how I introduce myself to people. I say that I'm a workforce architect. I know right away. If I don't want to say HR, because I know that's going to take it on a tangent, and I don't have the time. I'm an architect. What does an architect do in HR? What is a workforce architect? Design workforce solutions based on org strategy. And when I mentor and develop HR people across the globe, that is my standard line, and this is what we do. And I want the organization to realize the value that we could bring, as opposed to this other stuff that has outlived its usefulness. I put it that way. So in driving that, I teach at a university here in Dubai, and my class is Monday night. My finals of the class. I find I enjoy that more than work, of standing in front of the students, talking to them, picking their brain. They're picking my brain. So it's kind of a sharing session. And you mentioned that Do you kind of feel the same way when you walk in and you talk about you have more connections there than you do outside of your phone book or?
Yeah, yeah, and Ron, uh, while you're saying all of that, I mean, we don't realize, but we that's is where we learn more on how do we want to do work. It, I mean, dealing out of the office, because in the office we were already used to the office.
Yeah,
So we know how to talk to the CEO or the CFO or the CTO or
yeah,
all those levels. But
yeah.
when you go out into like you teach in a university, and I do my mentoring, when they ask you questions, when they approach you for something, there is that realization point
There we
that
go. Yeah.
actually that actually brings the change in you. So
Hmm.
that is also something you learn from you
Yeah.
as a person.
Yeah, you mentioned learning from. How does Hassan learn? I mean, you've gone through, you've got the degrees, you've got all of this. Never rest on your laurels, as my mother would always say. But how do you learn going forward? I mean, you have a runway, and how do you learn?
So, Ron, I almost every 3 months, I have a plan. So,
Walk us
engineers,
through it.
engineers, yeah. So,
Always, always
so
efficiencies coming in, right?
or it's just not, yeah. So I invest in global certification, advanced programs. So I go through MIT, Cornell, Kellogg's, INSEAD,
Oh,
CIPD. Nowadays I've inclined more myself towards hacking HR, AI HR, those
okay.
courses and how they're structured, and that is how I go beyond the formal education side into a more certificate side, and learning what is happening around the world, how the world of HR is changing, what is the future of work, and as AI is now becoming a more integral part of
Yeah.
everyone's conversation. So that is how I stay connected. So I also sharpen my thinking through my writing myself. So I write articles. I put on carousels on LinkedIn through my LinkedIn
Mm,
newsletter,
mm,
which is called the Transformation Hub. So I that that also pushes me to stay current, reflect deeply, and translate complex ideas into practical insights for others. Like um, there was one article I wrote on HR operating models. I mean, I was so surprised that the people started to inbox me on oh, now we understand what an HR operating model actually is and how it's structured. So that gave me some inspiration for myself, and it also keeps me accountable for my own learning as well.
mm,
So every
mm.
conversation, project, culture, every comment that comes in, and the culture that I work adds to another layer of the continuous process of growth.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say that because years ago when blogs first came out, I started writing. A friend of mine started the blog. It was called TLNT Talent, and I started writing for them. And I wrote an article a week for 4 years. Imagine the pressure. And then I pulled away from it. I said it was too much because I was doing so many other things. But I went back to that maybe a year ago, and I don't put myself onto the weekly schedule, but something could trigger me. And the article of last Tuesday morning that Amazon was going to lay off 30,000 people or whatever it is. And that triggered me to think through from a systemic process that says layoffs, but you've got where's education looking at the new level of development? Where's
Yeah.
your career coming back from my school days? What is the career going to look like in 5, 10 years, 20 years? And look at an organization. How did you make that mistake that you had 30,000 people in doing that? So it causes you, for people that's inclined to writing, I find it's therapeutic because I can get
Yeah.
thoughts out, and when I post it, people will reach out to me the same way you're talking about in your blog. What's the name of your blog again? Give us that again.
The transformation hub.
The trans the transformation hub. Yeah. So it gives you an opportunity to move away from that. So I want to parlay move away for a second because my good friend John Self, he said, I need to slow down. I do 2 newsletters a day. John started as a newspaper reporter,
Oh,
and
really?
he morphed into executive search, and then he morphed into career development, and he just keeps reinventing himself. And then learning from that is you may start here, but you're going to have to keep flipping it in some way and put on a new face and move to something else. Gary Bland,
True.
who is always a frequent listener on Friday, he says, great advice on inspiring the team. And Gary and I are going to be working together on some topics coming up soon. Peter Piccinini started on Broadway in New York, and now he's a wealth management consultant. And you see how things started. Each one of these
Yeah,
people started going here, and it didn't work
yeah.
out. It didn't work out for whatever reason, and now they're flipping and doing something else.
Whatever clicks for you, anything that clicks for you. You start somewhere else, you end up doing something else, and that thing actually clicks for you, and then you go expanding into it.
And I tell my students, I said, that's okay. Years ago, you would have been considered a failure because you said, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to quit and go do something else. But that to
Yeah,
me, and this is just the Ron Thomas version of it, that's career development. You realize that you're not getting it, you don't want to do it, you flip and do something else. Now I understand there's a lot of
yeah,
constraints to come up with that, but I think this is the level of the, and this is what I talk to in my class, is that this is how we're going to have to develop this new crew of students coming through as to what
yeah,
this thing is going to look like going forward. You kind of agree with that, or?
yeah. I can completely agree with that.
Mm-hmm. So I want to ask you a question. If you could go back and speak to your younger self, this engineer who's going to go out and do engineering for now for the next 30 years, what advice would you give that young engineer just walked across the stage with that piece of paper and I'm going to change the world?
uh, I start by saying, slow down. You're not behind. Every struggle you face is actually carving the strength into you when you cannot see it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Trust your values, protect your integrity, and don't shrink yourself to fit places where you never, me- which were never meant for you.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
keep learning, keep moving, stay true to who you want to become, and one day this entire purpose you're searching for will eventually find you, and
Okay.
you will realize that it was worth every step.
It was worth every step. You may not see it then,
Yeah,
but later you realize that, that was pretty cool. I learned a lot from that, and I'm moving on beyond that. Yeah.
yeah, true.
So let's flip that. You talking to your younger self. Let's flip that and say you are giving a keynote at a C-level conference. What advice would you give
Mm.
to the so-called C-suite as to how they should develop or build a culture, which you've mentioned 3, 4 times, inside of an organization so their people can thrive?
So, I'll start with something like, no journey is straight. So leadership is never about the titles on your card, and it's actually linked to the people that you lift, the cultures that you shape, and the systems that you leave behind.
Mm-hmm.
If there is one thing, what I want every leader listening today to take away is that choose clarity over noise, purpose over ego,
Yeah.
and growth over comfort. That is where
Ooh.
the real transformation actually begins. Because
Mm.
if career, came up with a user manual, life would have been much easier. But then I won't be sitting here telling you my story. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That manual for life, even if they did a manual for life, it's going to keep changing itself. You talked about your father, and your father gave you kind of a manual of life as to how we should approach this. But lots of times we're coming up and we're thinking a different way. We're going to do it different. And I remember a phrase that Tiger Woods said in an interview. He says, "The older I get, the smarter my father becomes."
Yeah.
And that father could be the family, that father could be an aunt and uncle. It doesn't have to always be the father. But he
Yeah.
says, the older I get, the smarter that person becomes. And that comes
Comes. Yeah.
from my side, is that people that played a part in your life, they were giving you life lessons, but a lot of times you just, yeah, I got it.
Yeah. So
And it came back, and as he looked back, he says, "Oh, wow, they were correct." You talked about your father and what that meant to you in doing that, and you're trying to carry it forward. So
yeah, and
go ahead,
yeah.
respond.
So sorry. I remember a line that my father, before he passed away, may his soul rest in peace. What he actually said, he said, "You will realize what a father is when you actually become one." so, 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 yeah, I said, yeah, fine. I mean, we'll see about it at that time. Yeah. So, over the years, when I got married, then I got kids. That is, and then those flashbacks
Yeah,
is when you realize how smart he was and how he used to give us those lessons that shape our thinking, our way of doing work, and you know the way we look at the world.
yeah. I call it nuggets. I call it nuggets. They give you a lesson here. You say, yeah. They give you another lesson. And the older you get, and the more you get out and face this thing called life, those nuggets, you can connect those, and you got a puzzle that you can put together as a result of that, which they were trying to do. And I think in a lot of cases, they didn't realize they were putting together a life lessons or a manual of whatever it was. But if you're smart enough,
Yeah.
you can connect the dots. My
Very true.
thought.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Very
Mhm.
true.
So as you look going forward, what are you excited about? What are you excited about over the next few years, or projects or people you're developing or whatever it is? What does that look like?
So I'm actually excited about the current chapter that is ahead of me, because I think everything that I've worked converges to a larger purpose. So I'm stepping into work that is cross border, that is
Okay.
shaping the future of work, which is OD&D practices into new regions, and helping build the next generation of HR leaders of how of who will build the workplaces for tomorrow. So as GCC is entering into a powerful transformation era, and
Huge.
being a part of this shift actually energizes me. What actually
Yeah.
excites me the most is creating organizational models that are resilient, human, future ready, and knowing that the impact of the work that I do will last, outlast any one role or any one title.
Mm, mm. That's amazing that you were able to. I want to say comprehend and put structure to it, but then again, that's the engineering mindset, right? So the engineering
But
mindset says, I can put it out there, but I got to connect all of this, because otherwise, an engineering degree is not working, right?
exactly. And I'm not doing justice to my engineering, if I can't connect the
Yeah,
dots.
and tying it all together. So as we begin to close out, I wanted to ask you a question. And that question would be, as you're going through all of this, you're transitioning back, and you're bringing the next generation of leaders on. How are we inside of an organization? Because when you look at layoffs, you look at people structure, companies say, we want you back 5 days a week, no flexibility. Do you think we're moving in the right direction? If you had the power to restructure or rethink, what would be some key initiatives you would think about? Because I know when I read everything every morning, I got a whole. When I think about all of I mentioned the layoffs, all these things that people are going through. You see someone that's coming out of college, can't find a job, or someone was laid off, can't find a job. Systems thinking.
Yeah. So
How would we connect this? Go ahead.
yeah. So like you said about people and people coming out of college and everything. What we need to realize is we're going to go more from formal processes to experience designers. So what we need to be is experienced designers of how, for example, the ESG, the environment, social, and governance, or the employee-led innovation will reshape the future of work, and how organizations build agility in uncertain times, and like now, with the change in the future of work, and with the inclusion of AI into our working life, what will be the new HR operating model for us? What will be that disruption in the system? And that there's a rise of functional executives, so portfolio carriers, and the next frontier of work are areas like metaverse, AI, global mobility. So we have to be experiential designers to
Yeah,
actually connect all of those and start thinking on those lines.
yeah, I love that. Um, Experiential designers. In other words, connecting all of those dots. Because trust me, and you say it on top of this as much as I do. The dots are all every place and all over every place. But somewhere along the line, we got to connect this to this. When I talked about the universities, talked about careers, the dots
Yeah.
have to connect in some way.
Yeah. So it's all about focusing on the psychology of things, or and then also looking into why change fails.
Mm,
That's also one dot that nobody looks into, or
yeah.
how we design HR as a product instead of a process.
Okay.
That actually
Ooh.
changes the way you think. So diving into talent intelligence, HR operating models for the future, like I said, and the next generation capability for HR that needs across the borders. These are some of the things that influence on more on the transformational work that most of the organizations are going through. So then they will understand that even due to students coming out, students going in, they have an idea. Because whatever student comes out has has a learning experience which we call as an internship. So when they're there, don't go there to spend 1 month at time and then just come out. See, learn, adapt, and then change yourself from that experience into designing what you want to do. Not
Yeah.
just going into, because if you see, the roles are changing. The way people work in the office is changing. There's no regular work now. There is specialized work.
Hmm.
Every single thing that we do, even in HR, finance, marketing, risk management, operations, technical, non-technical, everything is now a specialized thing. The journalist thing is going out of the picture. That the specialization thing is coming in.
Yeah. 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 You kind of gave us kind of a master class on the engineering mindset and thinking through the system thinking. I kind of felt that as you were explaining that. So as we began to close, one of the key points of starting the CEO series was to bring together leaders like yourself and talking through. Forget about the ladder. Think of the lattice. It's not going to work as you plan. What do you learn from that and carry it forward? So, what key message would you like to leave the audience as we close out?
um like I said earlier, think about how many people you lift. Think about the cultures you shape, and then leave behind a legacy of the systems that you build.
Hmm.
That is what is going to give you an inner satisfaction, and that is exactly what's going to give you a name in the market, or also something to look at. because you will come and go from organizations, and nothing will change because we're all replaceables in an organizations.
Yeah.
But the
Sounds
people
fair.
we touch, yeah, but because the people we touch, that remains for
Yeah.
life.
Okay, cool. So thank you so much for being a guest. And for everyone that's listening today, thank you for listening in. Your time questions and comments are always enlightening to let us know that we're doing the right thing. And we just won an award for one of the best podcasts for leadership development. It'll be coming out soon, announcement coming soon. So we'll be back next Friday with another journey. Always remember, behind every title is a story worth telling. And every story brings us
Exactly.
closer to what real leadership looks like. So I ask the people that's listening in, like, comment, share with your group so that we can grow our base and grow our global audience because we are global as it relates to the CEO series. And with that, I thank everyone for listening in today. And I need you to hang on for just a second. So thank you, everyone, and we'll see you back on next Friday morning.
Thank you.
Take the CEO series with you anywhere, anytime. All episodes are now available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and major streaming platforms. It's not just an interview, it's a masterclass in leadership.